And we're live. Good morning, Francisco. How are you this morning?
Good, great. How are you, Kevin?
I'm doing fantastic. Good morning, Alta Realty Group agents. This is Kevin Lauren and Francisco Moreno. And today we're going to be going over purchase contracts, the residential purchase contract. Francisco is our resident expert. And so, Francisco, go ahead and delve right in. We've only got a half an hour this morning, so I know we're a little tight on time. So go ahead and give us a little outline of the purchase contract.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Yes, good morning, everyone. We're going to start trying to define a little bit the buyer. So the buyer should have or should meet 3 qualifications before we even start thinking about filling out a purchase agreement. So your buyer should be ready, able, and approved to buy a property. So this is important because there's some agents that have asked me the question if they could submit more than one offer at the same time. And I have said that I don't recommend that, and we will tell you the reason as we go. Okay, so now if you have a ready, able, and approved buyer, then we got to move into the purchase agreement. When you go to your computer and pull out from the zip forms, you will see a package already made by CAR, and the first disclosure that you will see is the real estate agency relationship. Why this is in front of everything? Because if we don't sign this document, then we are not represented by any real estate company or an agency. So this is important because the brokerage is the one who is going to put their face in front of the buyer and the seller.
Right. That's exactly why this is the very first piece is without that, then you, of course, don't have representation.
Correct. So as we go along, then the second document will be the possible representation of more than one buyer seller disclosure. And it explains, if you're representing only one buyer, one seller, or doing the dual agency. And it tells you that all the different situations that may occur when you are dealing with your buyer. Then the next document is the wire fraud and electronic transfer. It just tells you that your buyer has to be really careful and make sure your buyer and yourself make sure that everything is you're dealing with a known title and escrow company,
right?
And then all the advice that you have on this written paper is important. There's a reason to be there, so it's just to follow up and do all the processes on this.
And Francisco, can you scroll down a tiny bit to that spot on the contract?
Yes. Hold on. Sorry.
No worries.
Right here.
There we go.
Right there.
So that's what that looks like.
Yeah. This area here where it says accordingly you're advised. That's the most important part of this agreement.
Right. And a couple of weeks ago, we did have a wire fraud. We had the gals from Tycor telling us all about wire fraud. So this is the spot in the contract where we're basically disclosing this.
Yeah, correct. Then the next page will be the purchase agreement. Then everything here has to be really be overlooked because this is the backbone of your contract and your transaction. So as you can see, it's pretty much, it makes it so easy for us to fill these documents up now with this technology. However, some of us are very forgetful and forget to do things. Anyway, one of my prior brokers always insisted and told me that a contract without a date and without a signature is not a contract.
Correct.
And that is very correct. So we have to be able to put, the date and the signs and the signatures and the initials and everything else. Our initials or signature and our clients too. Okay, so now it's a little bit self-explanatory. Like, you got to put the name of your buyer, the address of the purchase of the property that you're trying to buy, location, city, zip code, the assessor parcel number. Now, with this, I remember about 15 years ago, all these documents existed because prior mistakes that some of other realtors did. Back then, there was a case that went to court because the realtor did not make sure that he put the correct address on the purchase agreement. So what happened was he transposed the numbers and he ended up selling a house that it was not for sale. And the house that he was supposed to sell, it didn't get sold.
Ouch.
So that was one of the reasons why the agent visual inspection report exists, because that kind of forces the agent, both the listing agent and the buyer's agent, to go physically inside the property and do a visual inspection of this property. So it is very important that you check, double check, and triple check that the address, especially the number 20, in this particular case, the 2141, is correct. There's no transposed numbers, and you're going to end up selling a different property. That's very important.
Extremely important, Francisco.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's worth triple checking.
That's exactly right. So then, as we go along, make sure that all these blanks fields are filled out properly. The name of our real estate company has to be a proper name, Alta Real Estate Group CA. Everything should be as clear as possible. Then we come up to the finance terms, the amount of, the amount of the initial deposit. There's been a lot of questions regarding this figure here too. Some people said, well, I'm going to say the price of the property is, let's say, $500,000. We're going to send in $500 as the initial deposit. Well, the rule of thumb has been to send, like 3% minimum. That's a rule of thumb. That's nothing that has been written or anything like that. But depending upon the market that you're dealing with, the more initial deposit you send in, your offer is going to be stronger. And the other way around, if you send in $500 on a very competitive market, I don't think they're going to take you seriously. The initial deposit, what it measures is how serious your buyer is to buy this property, pretty much. Okay, so moving down, we're going to go to Part D, loans. If you have any questions, please let me know so I can go back to any specific questions regarding this.
Yeah, for sure. And guys, remember that there is a chat feature. If you're looking for where the chat feature is, you just take your cursor to the bottom of the Zoom screen, and there's a little bubble that says chat. Click on that, and you can ask any questions that you'd like. Okay, go ahead, Francisco.
Correct. Now, when this deposit is, this deposit may happen in pretty much in two different ways. Your buyer can give you a check, a personal check for, let's say in this case, $2,000, or he may have the option of do a wire transfer once the offer has been accepted, and then you have those 3 days to submit this money to your title or escrow company. So if your client is going to give you a check, then you need to fill out what is called a trust fund. Let me show you. We need to fill out one of these little forms.
Just a couple of forms over there. No big deal.
Yeah, this one. Okay, this form is supposed to be filled out by every check that you receive. And as you can see, it has several columns. And again, it's just very simple to fill out. And again, this is not an option. This has to be in compliance with BRE. So every form, every file must have one of this. And in my case, for example, there's an agent over in Santa Rosa or down in San Jose or Vallejo, and you have a client give you a personal check, then print one of these forms up, fill it out, and then when all the money has been submitted to the title company, then make a copy of this already filled out and send it to the office. So all these forms are going into a special folder in the office. In case we have a BRE audit, they're going to ask for this trust fund document. So they will see that we are in compliance with the procedures of BRE. So this is very important.
You're right. So in our office, this has got to be in SkySlope, in our SkySlope account.
Correct. Yes. Okay. So let's go back to here. And again, if there's going to be an increased deposit, you have to put it in here, whatever that amount will be. The exception will be if it's an all cash offer, then, there will be obviously no contingencies, except the inspection contingencies. I will recommend for you to keep the inspection contingency open, because that's going to be your only pretty much safeguard if something is not right on the process. So make sure that you do all the due diligence and all the inspections has been done and accepted by the buyer. So if something happens that, for example, the property has, I don't know, $60,000 worth of termite damage, then you have an option, a vehicle that you can, remove yourself from this offer and cancel the contract legally. So, but don't remove all the contingencies, because then you're going to be pretty much unsecured.
Yep, you have no leg to stand on if something that happens, right?
Exactly, yes. Okay, then we're going to move on to the loan section, and that's going to be the difference between the purchase price and the initial deposit, and that's going to be, or your down payment and all that. So that's going to be the amount of your loan. Now here, if the property is going to be an FHA or a VA loan, then you need to click here with this FHA or VA or seller financing, because if it's an FHA, you will have FHA VA a mandatory clause that in a way is going to be somehow securing also the funds, the deposits of your client, in case something is not correct. So this a mandatory clause in a way will safeguard the initial deposits of your clients, and the buyer cannot go after that in case you have to cancel the contract. So then if you have all this information, what I do, I discuss it with with whoever is doing the loan, and try to put as much information as I can regarding this section here, the interest rates and all that, the maximums and all that. So then we move to make sure that all the mathematics about the calculations are correct. Sometimes I have brand new, and this is the most basic. It's, you know, we're talking about the very basics here. So if there's any seasoned agents out there, they're gonna probably feel boring. But I have some of the brand new agents to call me, and they have a problem calculating this. So I'll be more than happy if anybody wants to know how to do this. I'll just call me and I'll go.
And occasionally, as we know, even seasoned agents will make a mistake.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so then we move to the next page. Again, talk about the verification of down payment and closing costs. You know, it's very clear the 3 days that we're talking about there. That's the contract fixed or default number of days. But in the blank, you can change that to more days or less days, depending how you have agreed upon this with the listing agent. The loan terms, the same thing. You know, you have to read this information here and fill in the blanks and go over, you know, with the listing agent and you know, agreed upon, you know, hey, what is, you know, can I go down to, instead of 17 days, can I do it in 15 days? Or if that's something that you feel that you're going to have a stronger offer, then you got to make sure that if you put, instead of, you don't select the 17 days, but you said, I can remove these contingencies in 10 days, then you can do that, because otherwise you're going to be ending requesting an extension of time, and then it's not going to look good on you.
And then you know, working with Clearview, they're pretty quick, so a lot of times you can be a little bit more competitive with that, right?
Sure, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then I forgot to mention on the first, one of the first pages, on 1D, it says close of escrow. You know, you can put either the date that you plan to close the escrow or the number of days that you are going to be calculating or estimating that you can close the escrow.
Got it.
I have said, you know, I always use 35 days, and some of the listing agents called me and said, hey man, you know, put it 28 days. I said, look, you know, 28 days is unrealistic. I mean, especially if it's an FHA, you know, there's a lot of people putting hands on this process, and then you have the lender, then you have vacation times in between, you know, weekends, and you know, you can't control that. So I think 35 days to 40 days is a more realistic time. But if they insist that they want to see 30 days or 27 days, you know, I could put it in, but then they know that they're going to be receiving an extension of time down the road, which is normal. Okay. So.
Yeah, it's a good idea to start with 35 just to give yourself a couple of days budge room.
Exactly. Okay, so now we are going to talk a little bit about the number 7, allocation of costs. As you can see, we have sections to click on buyer or seller, depending who's going to be making that payment or assuming that cost. In this particular one, the natural hazard disclosure has been always the seller cost. Or if you feel that, you know, this needs to be agreed upon, and then you selected that the buyer is going to be paying for this in order for you to make this offer more stronger or more appealing to the seller, you could put that the buyer will pay for this. the average cost of this report is only like between $80 and $110. It's not too much, and that will probably give you more leverage and will be a stronger offer if you put that the buyer will pay for this.
Correct.
Then any other report, you have spaces here on 2 and 3 to fill it up. Then we move to government requirements and retrofit. The seller pay for the smoke alarm. This has always been that the seller will pay for the smoke alarm and the carbon monoxide device. Again, if you want to make it, more appealing, you can put that the buyer will pay for that. However, beforehand, because you already saw the property, when you did your visual inspection, you saw that every room has the smoke detectors in place. And you know that by the kitchen area or by the door that goes to the garage, you already saw the installation of the CO2 alarm. So even if you put the buyer here, most of the time is zero cost. And however, it's going to look like the buyer is already paid for that and it's already done. So then we go to escrow and title. Now here, escrow and title will be paid by buyer or seller or only buyer or only seller, depending on what you have negotiated with the listing agent. Depending upon the market on that area, if it's very competitive, again, you can talk to your client and say, look, we need to make this offer very strong and make sure that you are going to be, paying for everything instead of increasing the price of the property, which, this will look a lot better too. So, however, there is there's charts that you can get from your title company where it tells you who pays what regarding the closing costs. So if the area where the property is located at is not too competitive and it's a normal quote unquote market, then you can apply whatever this title chart calls for, 50-50 or only the seller. You can even request that the seller pay for closing costs, so on and so forth. You can request for repairs. You can request for many things. It all depends upon the market where you're dealing with. Then same thing with number 2, the owner's title insurance. Again, it's negotiable, or you can select that the buyer is going to be paying for both to make your offer stronger and more competitive. And again, title companies will give you a little booklet where it tells you what is the cost of your title insurance, your escrow. If you're buying the property or if you're refinancing the property, then you'll have different costs. Then the number D, or the costs, the seller or the buyer may pay for the county transfer tax. Pretty much it's $1.10 times $1,000 of property value. That's going to be what you're going to be paying for. And again, you can make it that the buyer pays for all this, even the city transfer tax, the number 2. So that way the seller will see that your offer is more competitive than the other ones. So, and again, there's charts and it tells you what county and what cities charge city transfer tax. There's several cities that they charge no transfer tax. Some of the cities charge like like Oakland, for example, they charge $15 per every 1,000 of property costs. And it all depends what city you're dealing with. But
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
you
and
can
again, the
select.
title reps are perfect, contact to get those charts from.
Correct. Yes. So, and then if it's a property that has HOA, again, you can renegotiate this to make the offer stronger and have the buyer pay for all this. So, however, here, number 4 says sellers shall pay for HOA fees for preparing documents required to be delivered by Civil Code 4525. I mean, number 4 is just clear. There's no buts or ifs. A seller will pay for that. And number 6, buyer should pay for any HOA certification fees. That's it's clear. Then we'll go to number 10. This, if you're dealing with an existing home, especially homes that are have many years of existence, these extended warranties are very, very, very advisable to get. You can again renegotiate this with your listing agent. And again, if you want to make it stronger, have the buyer pay for this. And if your buyer says, you know what, I just don't want to do this, then down at the bottom where it says or, and then you click in there where it says buyer waives the purchase of this home warranty plan. So why do we have this? Why do we have to make everybody aware of this if the buyer is waiving this? Because if you don't buy it before the closing of the escrow, and then 2 months down the road, you said, you know what, I should have purchased that extended warranty. I'm going to buy it now. But you've been the homeowner for like 2 or 3 months already. Then you call the insurance company, you buy one. Okay, so what's going to happen is they're going to make you wait a month or maybe 2 months before you can use this extended warranty. So if you were to purchase it now, you would be able to use it like 12 months. Whereas if we buy it afterwards, then the 12 months, they're going to penalize you that you cannot use it for 1 or 2 months.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're going to be able to use it for like only 10 months at the same price. So you need to be able to explain all these options to your buyer. Then again, you need to be able to really read in detail your MLS listing, because there you will see what items are included in the sale. And again, you went to see the property, you did a visual inspection inside the property, and then you saw that there's, alarm system, there's a refrigerator, stove, microwave, washer and dryer, or any other appliances, and then, chandeliers or what have you. Then you can ask for those items to be included in the sale. And in the same token, when you were doing your visual inspection, you saw that in the backyard there was piles of debris and piles of garbage, and there was a boat and an old car left in the garage. That's personal property. So if you don't want those items in there, then this is the time for you to put it in there. So by 5 days before the closing of the escrow, when you go to the house and you check your condition of property, and you still see that there's the same pile of garbage and debris and the old car left in there, then you have time before the closing of the escrow to tell the listing agent, hey, the contract says that you have to clean this up. Otherwise, we're not closing. You have to do it before, you have 5 days to do this.
And this comes up all the time, right, Francisco? I mean, this is always an issue, it seems like.
Yeah, exactly. Because, sometimes we don't put these things in here. And then, if it's not in the contract, then human nature, if there's no way that you can force me to clean it up, I will not going to do it.
That's the way that works.
So yeah, and I have had instances where the amount of garbage left cost the buyer like, $2,000 just to clean it up.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's happening. So then the closing and possession, you need to see if the property is vacant, or if the property is seller occupied, or there is a tenant in the property. So this is an additional situation that you gotta be really careful. If the property is vacant and it's clean and everything, then you have no problem at all. But if there's a seller occupying the property, and then he already indicated in writing that he is going to need to stay in the property after the close of escrow, that means that you're going to have a seller in possession. Make sure that this seller in possession stays in the house no more than 29 days, because the seller in possession form that you're going to fill out, it's exactly that, 29 days. If this seller stays 30 days, then the law applies as a tenant. So the tenancy laws apply to this person. So then if he doesn't want to go away, then you have to start the eviction process just like a tenant. Okay, so you have to be careful and monitor that he is living or taking all his belongings out of the property within 29 days.
Otherwise, you end up with a seller that becomes a squatter.
Exactly. And then tenancy laws will apply, and then that's going to cost your client a lot of money. That will be the same thing if it's a tenant occupied. So unless your buyer is an investor and he told you, look, I want this property because it has already a tenant in place, so when I close 30 days later, I will begin to have some cash flow. That's okay. But you have to make sure that you have something in writing that your buyer indicate that to you. So because if then down the road he changed his mind, or his family make him change his mind, and they said, no, we need the property to live in and we need it vacant now, and you have nothing to rely on that he said, I said, so you have to have something in writing that that's what he wants. Okay, then going forward, the contract is pretty much just information, condition of the property, buyer's investigation of property material affecting the property. This has to do with all the disclosures.
Yeah, and then disclosures and all the other things are a whole nother training topic, of course. And Francisco, we have run out of time. This is probably a pretty good stopping point here.
Okay.
But what I encourage everybody to do, especially the newer agents or agents that just haven't been writing a lot of contracts, is if you have questions, direct them to us, and we can put you in contact with Francisco. He's a great teacher, and if there's individual questions that you have, don't hesitate to call us. Also, Travis Breton, a corporate broker, is a great resource for this stuff as well. So, Francisco, thank you so much for going over this stuff. You gave us a lot of really good insight into how some of this stuff works. So we really appreciate that.
Okay, no problem. My pleasure. Thank you.
Heck yeah, Francisco. Well, guys, thanks so much for being on the webinar. And again, if you have any specific questions, you can contact me, Kevin Lauren, 949-285-7209, and get out there and make it a great day, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.